grew up in a really rough home. I grew up without a dad. Still to this day, I don't know my biological father. Currently, the relationship I have with my mom is like if you were to pick a random person and like point to them. Every memory I have of my childhood is often bad. Multiple days that I would be like left alone, unattended. My house was like the drug house. Often strange men would come into the house. I'd wake up to random people in the house. Then I remember growing up, like I didn't have a bed. So like that was kind of wild. There was one night in particular, the last night I remember being with my mom. She had overdosed. I knew something bad was happening, but I didn't know what was happening.
I mean, you shouldn't even be alive. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Radiant Podcast. And today I'm joined by a good friend of mine, Nathan. Nathan, you've been here at Radiant for only a little bit of time now. Like it's not been super long.
Just over a year and a half.
Yeah, a year and a half. Originally from Colorado, right?
Originally hail from the great state of Texas.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
but
Texas.
most of my adult life has been in Colorado.
Yeah. Okay. And so you're one of the pastors here with us. You came here on staff as a pastor. You've worn a lot of hats just in that short amount of time here in kids ministry and associate and all these things. And so you're an incredible guy that I've just recently been starting to get to know. And so what I wanted to talk about today was just like your story. You have a really wild story.
Yeah.
And so if you attend Radiant and you're listening to this or watching this, we probably watched a 2-minute version of your story on Easter. And I know that one of my favorite moments was when we were talking about that video was we were doing like kind of like our Easter prep meeting, and you go, well, I don't know what the film team's going to do because it was like a 45-minute story and they only have 2 minutes. So it's like, I don't know how they're going to cut this down. And I remember that was the painful part. Taylor, our film director, I remember him coming back and forth with me, and he was like, I don't know what to cut. He's like, there's so much in the story. He's like, I feel like every moment I cut is like something that I'm like, well, I want people to hear this. This is powerful. It's emotional. And how do you tell this whole story? And so then a light bulb went off and I was like, well, let's tell the whole story, you know?
Sure.
And so, so I know there's some things you're probably not going to say. We already said on camera, like, hey, I'm probably not going to tell that story or that story. So if you want to know those stories, you have to be your friend, get to know you.
Yeah.
But just a quick intro before we jump into your story, which I know starts at a very young age.
Yeah.
You're here at Kalamazoo. You have a wife and four now. Yeah, you just had your fourth. Yeah. Like how old now?
She's 5 weeks today.
Yeah, so you're like, you're in it. Yeah. And how old's your eldest?
She's 6.5.
Okay. Yeah. So a nice little spread there. Yeah. And what's like a hobby? What do you like to do in your spare time?
Oh, that's a great question. When we lived in the Springs, I love to hike, be outdoors, still do that. But we have full hands with 4 kids right now, and they're young.
Yeah.
And so
hiking's a little different.
Yeah, it's a little different, you know? And so, Kelsey and I we love our home. I know it kind of sounds funny, but it's where we're very fortunate, you know, she stays at home with the kids. And so, every home we've lived in, we've put a lot of love into it. And so something I really enjoy, it's a love-hate relationship, but I think I love it more than I hate it, is like kind of beautifying our house. Every house that we've lived in, we've done some remodels. And this last house, we like gutted the kitchen and redid it. And it's like fun. It's YouTube University is like there for everything. And it's just something that comes natural to me, and I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing the transformation of spaces and helping other people with that. So I think that's like a hobby for sure. And then I used to hunt a lot. I grew up in Texas, and so a lot of bird hunting. I would love to go hunting here. If anyone is listening that would like to take me hunting for deer, I've never been in my life, and I desperately want to go.
You've never been deer hunting?
Never. Never big game. I've done hogs and different things like that, but I lived in Colorado for multiple years and never got to do anything like that, like elk or anything. And so I know bows real big in Michigan, and I just desperately want to go. My wife has killed 7 deer by like age, I think she was like 15 or something with her grandfather. So she's more experienced than I am for sure. But yeah, I would love to do that. But those are kind of like my 2 main things.
Well, it's funny. I mean, maybe you don't connect this, but one of the things you said was like, love, beautifying that home, like transforming, flipping that home, taking something broken and making it like beautiful.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I was kind of thinking of your story, and so it's like, it's like a practical way you're doing that just over and over again.
Sure.
Like,
what a smooth transition right
that?
there. Okay. That was good.
You didn't practice that too. And so, so where's the most practical starting spot for your story?
Yeah. I feel like, being in ministry, teaching kids how to like share their testimony, it's like, don't start like I was born.
Yeah.
But I mean, my story kind of does start there, just to give context for everything. And I want to say this first, before I share, like, I hope everything that I say is honoring to my mother, who raised me as a single mom, which is insanely difficult to do. Shout out to all the single moms out there.
Yeah.
I think she did her absolute best, but she was just beaten up and didn't have the hope of Christ in her life. And so really got defeated. And so like, I want to honor my mom, honor my grandmother, grandfather, who both since passed. I'll talk about that. But I just want to start with that.
Well, no, that's helpful because like typically when people will share stories of, broken homes, and it's like, look what God's done in me, but then you almost like just trash talk your parents, and it's like, well, at that they were doing like maybe they didn't know the Lord, like they were doing literally the best that they knew how to do, but didn't know the right thing. And so it's a fine line to like, how do I honor what they knew in that moment, but also like I did not have what I needed to thrive or survive. And so like the Lord was watching me and protecting me, and the Lord had a plan for them as well. And so I love that you said that.
Yeah, I take the commandments seriously, honoring your mother and father. And I'll probably share this a little bit too, but when Kelsey and I got married, I made it a point, though my grandmother had raised me, she was like a mother to me. Yeah. I danced with both my grandmother and my mom at my wedding.
I didn't know your mom. I knew the grandmother.
Yeah. And so it was a beautiful moment, and love my mom dearly. Our relationship is definitely fractured, and something that I'm still praying about, but wanted to honor her because it's a biblical principle, and I love her for sure, and I hope one day that she comes to know the Lord and that relationship can be restored somewhat. But
okay,
I'll jump in.
Yeah, man.
So I like I said, I grew up in a really rough home. I grew up without a dad. Still to this day, I don't know my biological father. Okay. I have a funny story I can share about that,
That's it. You're just gonna leave us hanging?
Yeah. So, very long story short, this is nothing to do with my testimony, but if you're asking for it, 3 or 4 years ago, I did a 23andMe test, DNA test, and I don't know my biological dad, but found out that I had a sibling I'd never met.
Okay.
And we're related paternally, and so we're related by our dad that we both don't know. And so,
how does that? That's wild.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So she did the test. I did the test. They like only post it to your like account if they're like, I think it's like 99% sure that you're related to this person. And it pulled up. It said I had a half sister, and I thought, oh, my sister I grew up with, Cassie, that's who it is, you know. And I didn't even look at the name. And then later, as I was exploring the app, there was a name there. And said her name was not my sister's name. Yeah. And long story short, we had a phone call, talked. It was kind of wild and kind of put me on this journey to figure out who my biological father is. I still don't know. Yeah. I'm still trying to figure that out. But it was kind of wild that
is
happened.
Wild.
So a little excerpt there. Yeah. But yeah, so my mom struggled growing up. She was, she had an addiction and to multiple different types of drugs. And I know she was trying to walk in, sobriety and different things, but often just found herself back in that place. And then around came me. She had me, and I know there were some complications at birth, and I know there were some issues.
Like, how old is your mom this time when she's had you?
It's a great question. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
I honestly, I couldn't tell you how old she is right now.
Interesting.
We haven't. If I sat down and did the math,
which is that's helpful for me. As I'm listening to your story, is it shows like how fractured the relationship is.
Yeah.
It's like, even the simplicity of you just like, oh, I know how old my mom is or how old she was, because that's like almost everybody knows that. Yeah. Unless they're like adopted. Yeah. But it's like, that shows like you weren't adopted, but it's like you still don't even, it almost is like that. It was almost a complete separation.
The way I explain to people currently, the relationship I have with my mom is like like if you were to just to pick a random person and like point to them. I'm biologically related to her. There is history there, memories there, but the relationship has just become so fractured. And, as I've grown and had to have my own family and focus on myself and my family, that relationship, we haven't really stayed connected. And so when I think about these types of things, like even memories as a kid, I don't remember much aside from some of the bad things. And so, when I remember it was about a year ago, someone had asked me that, like, how old is she? And I don't know. Like, I know she's like, she had me younger, as a younger adult. But yeah, so great question. Yeah. Who knows?
I wasn't expecting that answer. Sorry. I was expecting like, she was 18,
Yeah.
Okay.
I think she was like mid-20s. Okay. She had me, and she was on some substances while I was in the womb. And so there was difficulties even whenever I was born. And I was told both me and my sister were like born like with some sort of issues, like with like drug addictions. And so they had to like put me through all these different, not procedures, but like kind of get me out of this and treatments. And so, it was tough. Every memory I have of my childhood is often bad. I can't, there are very few ones that I can remember where I thought, oh, that was really good. And it was just very, very difficult. Like I said, I think she was doing the best she could, but she was just making poor decisions. I'd be multiple days that I would be like left alone, unattended. I remember as a kid, there was a gas station really close, and I would scrap up whatever money I could find around the house and go get like food. Like I remember specifically and it's why I don't really eat it anymore, but the mac and cheese little containers that you could like just throw in the microwave with some water. I'd buy a few of those from the 7-Eleven down the street just to like have lunch for the day. And she was just really irresponsible. And so that was tough. Yeah. And my grandmother kind of knew, but she didn't as much. I think my mom kind of put on a show when she came around, like everything was great. My house was like the drug house. Often strange men would come into the house and just be there. I'd wake up to random people in the house. And then I remember growing up, like I didn't have a bed. So like that was kind of wild. Yeah. Even like looking back on it now, like I remember when we bought our daughter her first like big girl twin bed, it was just like I was getting really emotional. I'm like, why the heck? And I was like, oh yeah, like I slept on the floor, for the first few years of my life. Yeah. If I wasn't in her bed, if I was in my own room. And so it was just difficult upbringing.
Yeah. I can't imagine, like, again, your kids are 6, 6 and younger. Yeah. So
that was the age I was.
Yeah. So I mean, I know there's more to the story, and I know there's stuff more you're going to share, but like, I'm imagining like as you're telling the story of what it was like for you at like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old to like now you raising your kids in a different home, and what that, not just like you, because then you could jump to the story of like, oh, look at the life they have, but it's like, no, what is that just doing in your brain? Yeah. Like you're experiencing like, oh wow, like this triggering thing of I am doing this for my daughter, and I did not have this at my age. Yeah.
I think I fight the urge to be like, I'm going to be better or do better. I don't think that's the spirit in which we should go about it. But like really for my kids, it is sometimes I'll just find myself crying. At our house, we call them happy tears. Yeah. I'm like smiling and crying at the same time. And my daughter, I'm pretty emotional. I cry the most. I probably out of everyone in our house. And my daughter, it's been good moments as she's gotten older. I've been really transparent with her. Like she's curious. She's asking questions. Like, I can tell her little brain's turning, and she's like, well, why are you thinking about this? Or who was your dad? And we're able to talk to her. And for me, it's really been like, whoa, like it's just so beautiful that God has really redeemed what I felt like was just a travesty of my childhood, especially those early years, and just kind of turned it for like it. In not a cheesy way, but really the good has come out of this, travesty that has happened. And it's so easy to be a victim of your circumstances and to just be like, oh my gosh, like my life was just so hard. But like I've never I've never wanted to feel that way. I'm sure I've expressed that sometimes in my life, but as an adult now, I'm like, no, like, hey, like God got me through that. He was with me, and like now I'm looking forward to like how He's going to redeem it in this life that I have with my family.
Yeah. Nathan, do you mind speaking for a second? You said you quickly said something and then you kind of just moved on to that thing you just ended with. But you said one thing I'm trying not to do is to always say like I'm going to do better than my parents, so to speak. Which I'd be curious to know, like, to just kind of hear your thought process in that, and because I've had lots of conversations with people to where it's like, oh, my parents were bad at this, or my parents never showed me this, or never gave me this. I'm going to be so much better than my parents, and they it's almost like this self-justification and this self-righteous type thing. And sometimes it might be like, oh, you're going to give your kids a better life, but like you kind of started to hint at, you take it like too far almost.
Yeah.
Can you maybe speak into that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's what you said. And I think people say that with pure intentions and a pure heart, but then it turns into potentially wrong motives.
Yeah.
I don't think our motives should be to be better than so-and-so because they did me wrong or did not do good. Now I'm going to do better. To even sometimes I think the mindset that can creep up, I won't speak for everyone, but for me is like, look at me. Yeah. Like, look where I've brought my family. And I've definitely had those moments before where I'm like, I can't believe, look how awesome this is. And like I remember when we bought our first house, like compared to the house that I grew up in with my grandparents, my grandma called it a mansion, and it wasn't. It was a 3-bedroom, 1,700 square foot home.
Yeah.
It was a new build. Sure, it smelled like a new shoebox, but it's so easy to puff yourself up and be like, I've done so much better. Yeah. But I do think that's dishonoring to those that have gone before you, because though yes, they or wrong and abuse and all that kind of stuff, neglect, like at the end of the day, like this is the person that like is your biological parent and people that raised you. And so I never want to like just, like they didn't do anything right, and I'm just going to do it all better. And so I try to keep myself from saying that, like, great. I'm just going to be so much better. Really, like I try to steer myself towards like, all right, Lord, like this is the circumstances I was dealt. What do you have for me now? Mm-hmm. And just kind of really trusting God to take me, to lead me, and not to compare, because it's so easy to compare and contrast. And it's like, wow, look. And yes, at a surface level, obviously, my life is so much better than it used to be. Yeah. But again, I don't know the circumstances they were dealt and how they were set up, and like the people, like often abuse is generational. Yeah. And so honestly, I've never even talked to my mom, but I guarantee you there is stuff there, that she had to deal with and go through. I know my grandma did. And so I think that I always try to make that a point with people.
Yeah. The humbling thing for me is like, I've heard, like, I'll just make it personal. And then if my mom's listening to this, like, sorry, Mom, but like, she hasn't texted me yet about the podcast, so it's a good chance she's not even listening to it yet. So, but it's like, I hear her say things like, oh, like, I want to do this differently than how I was raised. Mm-hmm. And then I'll be like, I want to do this differently than how I was raised. And then my wife and I'll be like, our kids are probably going to say the same thing about us. Like they want to do things differently. They want to be better. And it's like, it kind of like you're not the savior. It's like everyone's going through their stuff. And so I appreciate you speaking to that, because that's not a typical response, even with someone who's come from, I would say, a little more of an extreme case of what, most people are like, my dad just like didn't buy me that Xbox when I wanted, and I came from a broken home. It's like, no, that's not a broken home. Like, and so in relativeness, and so to hear you say that it's actually challenging. That's why I was wanting to speak into it.
And you said the word too that I thought it is this. Sometimes it can seem like a self-righteous statement, like, well, I got it together, which in reality, none of us do. Yeah. Like Kelsey and I were just talking a few weeks ago. It's like, what are going to be the things that our kids are like, Mom and Dad, like this really upset me, or like, hey, I've had to work through this, because we're not perfect, and no one's given us the playbook on how to be parents. We have 4 human beings that we're in charge of and stewarding, and it's like, oh Lord, like have mercy on me, because I want to do this the best that I can, but I'm going to hold everything open-handed, because I know I'm going to make a mistake. Yeah. It's going to look different, but I'm 100% going to make mistakes. And so yeah.
Okay, so I interrupted you. Sorry.
You're good.
But you were...
I love the back and forth.
Yeah. Do you remember where we were at in the story?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So
I know some parts. I'm trying to figure out where we're at.
So it was difficult from birth to age 7.
Yeah.
That's when I moved in with my grandparents. And there was one night in particular, the last night I remember being with my mom, and she had overdosed or almost overdosed. She had overdosed a few times, but like pretty much she was not coherent. And it had happened multiple times that I knew like she needed to go to bed. She needed to lay on her stomach to not like choke. And and I would often, I remember, I say often, a few times I've remembered like scraping up pills off the counter, putting them back in the bottle. I didn't understand. I just thought I was being helpful. I knew something bad was happening, but I didn't know what was happening. I just knew I loved my mom and I wanted to take care of her. And at the time, she had just recently had my baby sister.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that.
She was 3 months old at the time, and that was difficult in and of itself. Like I remember when she was born, and like I remember feeding her a lot, and I remember like she would just be crying, and I just like somehow intuitively knew like you put this formula, you mix it up,
oh my gosh,
and you like give it to the baby. And so I remember feeding my sister, changing my sister, and I'm like, I think I was 7, or pretty close to 7. And her name is Cassie. I remember fun thing. My mom asked me what we wanted to name her. And my favorite cartoon at the time was Dragon Tales.
Bro, I forgot it. I love that show.
Yes. Dragon Tales, Dragon Tales. Yeah. So my favorite dragon was the pink dragon, Cassie.
Yeah.
And she said, what do you want to name your sister? And I was like, Cassie from Dragon Tales. And she let me, however old I was, 6 or 7 year old, spell it. So Cassie has the worst spelling of Cassie. You probably have never seen it. Kassey.
Kassey. I've never seen that spelling.
So I spelt her name and love her so much. She's I think we're 6 to 7 years apart. And so that was like just wild. Like I remember, and then I remember my mom would take her a lot to my grandparents. And so she like wouldn't be there, but I would still be there because I was like in school and all of that kind of stuff. And so one night I got home, and like I had said previously, it just pills out. My mom was not really coherent. And so I get her in bed, I put the pills up. And the next thing I remember, as much as I can remember of it, is like men coming into the room in uniforms. And I was like, what the heck is going on? And they had like guns, and it was like really intense. And I just remember some guy saying, hey, come with me, you're going to be safe. And he like takes me out, and I remember my across the apartment neighbor was standing there like talking to the police officer. And then some lady came up with me and said, hey, I'm with Child Protective Services. You're going to be coming with me. And I was just like, what is going on? And I didn't understand fully. And I just remember standing out. They pulled me out of the apartment. I mean, it's so vividly, you can picture it. I was standing out in front of the apartment on the grass, and I was standing there, and then they just kind of left me unattended. She was like, hang out here, I'm going to go somewhere. And then out of nowhere, my grandma shows up. She lived like 35 minutes away. I don't know what happened. I don't know how she knew to come, but she was just there. She grabbed me, put me in the car, and drove away. Later on, I had found out like that was it. Like they were going to take me into Child Protective Services. I was going to go potentially into like some sort of foster system. And my grandmother just came. She had already had my sister, I think, for the weekend. And she had came and taken me. And so I went to go live with him. And the next thing I remember seeing my mom, it was like 6 months later. I remember going to the apartment, or not 6 months later, maybe 3 months. I don't know. I remember going to the apartment, and it was like really nice. I remember like completely redone. And I was just like, whoa, this is awesome. You know, like new bathroom, new carpet, new kitchen. And I was like, this is great. I was like, Mom, we get to do this. And that's when she told me like, no, like I'm going to be going away for a long time. And she broke the news that she was going to prison. And she'd been caught up in a bunch of stuff. And at that time that she had told me, I remember I didn't fully understand besides mom just wasn't going to be around anymore.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to get to live in this awesome new apartment.
Yeah.
And so I moved 30 minutes away to a town of population 500, Petrolia, Texas, with my grandparents.
Yeah.
We're talking like country.
Yeah.
Went to a school. I graduated, like, just to give you scope of size, it was a K through 12 school. Public though.
Yeah.
My graduating class was like 38 people. So we're talking tiny.
My graduating class I'm from Iowa.
Okay.
Which most people think like cornfield,
Yeah.
which is true. We were surrounded by cornfield, but I was in a pretty big
Sure.
like city in Iowa, and it was like 1,500 in my graduating class.
Yeah.
I was like the last class
Yeah.
before they opened like the second high school.
That's 3 times the amount of people
Yeah.
of my town. So
Yeah.
population wise.
So I'm just like imagining like what that would be like. Yeah. There were people that walked across the graduation that I was like, I'd never seen before.
Yeah.
It's like, it was just too many people.
Yeah,
to
you
know.
went to kindergarten through 12th grade with these people. pretty
Yeah,
much.
that's wild.
I just wasn't there for kindergarten or first grade.
Yeah.
So I moved in with my grandparents, and I thought, oh, this is going to be awesome. Like, I mean, I don't know about you, but grandma and grandpa, like getting to go visit them and do stuff. I had fond memories of that.
Like, this isn't like, I'm pausing right here because what you just said kind of triggered me. Like, you're like, you moved there, I think in 3rd grade. Is that what you're saying?
No. I moved there. I was 7. So first grade. I just finished first grade, or it was close to it.
Yeah.
I think it was mid-school year.
Like, so now I'm imagining like my daughter, Nora, who is right now 6, who's going into first grade.
Yeah.
And I'm imagining everything you just said, having her trying to like comprehend what's going on. Like, it's easy to think like, oh yeah, they were like, 12, 13, 14, but it's like, no, like this is like a 5, 6, 7-year-old trying to like walk through this, that's insanity. Like, imagining your kids like this. And so just to kind of put it, like if someone's listening to this, like if you have someone that age, like that's the perspective. And so,
I've thought that multiple times with our daughter, and it was, I've processed it over the years. There's many more, counseling and therapy sessions to do, right? Yeah. I feel like I've walked through a level of healing and freedom, but really I think the last year I've been wanting to dive in just like really deeper. Yeah. Because I want to understand why I can't remember most of my childhood besides maybe like 10 really bad memories. Yeah. And like if I think about it so hard, and those are vivid and clear, but everything else is like, it's blank, And so it was crazy. And my baby sister, she was, 3 months old. I'm like 6 or 7. And moving with my grandparents in this like tiny, 2-bedroom house in the middle of nowhere, Texas, Petrolia, Texas, and they'd just converted the garage into like a bedroom, and I just had no idea what I was walking into. My grandmother just fiercely loved me. She was absolutely incredible. She passed away a few years ago, and at the end of her life, and I'll talk about that later, I had a privilege of leading her to Christ. She lived with me in my home for years, and the last month of her life, I got to spend every single day with her. Wow. And so I just love her so much. So she was great. My grandfather, he showed love in the way men often did in that generation by providing, right? Yeah. He provided a roof over my head, which he constantly reminded me of. And he was very firm and direct. I know something that I did gain from him. I'm very diligent and I'm a tough worker. I have a hard work ethic, and that was something he instilled into me for sure. But he was very calloused, very just not a sentimental guy. I can tell you 2 times that we physically like hugged, like ever. Yeah. One of them was at his father's funeral. And then the other one, I was leaving to move to Colorado, and those were the only times that he'd ever like hugged me. Wow. And so he just was a emotionally distant man, had his own things. He was an alcoholic. He abused my grandmother physically, verbally, you like name it. And so that was hard. I did not know that side of him. Yeah. He was just pawpaw, and he was kind to me, but once I start to grow into a man, and like make decisions, and I'm like this young man growing up who's trying to figure out life, and as most young men do, questioning things, trying to figure it out. To him, it was just disrespectful. Like you get in line, you listen. And so, that was hard. So really growing up, it felt like I grew up without a father.
Yeah.
I don't remember ever asking my grandfather for advice. I just remember it was like eggshells. The spirit of my home was oppression.
Wow.
If you were too loud, you got yelled at. If you were up too late, you got yelled at. My grandmother was, I mean, I don't say this lightly. She was like talked to like a dog. Like, I mean, he just like would cuss her out every day and yell at her. And she was very depressed. I remember having multiple conversations with her where she was like, I want to divorce him so bad, but like I can't with you kids. Like I have to stick this out for you kids.
That's tough to hear.
And like, it's like, what the heck? And then you start taking on guilt for that, as a kid. You're like, and she didn't mean that, she was just, she had no one else to confide in.
She was hurting. But then as a child, you're like, oh, like because of me, you are forced to be in this painful situation. That's so terrible. Yeah.
So it was hard. And, she wasn't a believer. He definitely wasn't a believer.
Yeah.
And so, and he was just very harsh. And so that was really difficult. I remember, whenever I was 16, kind of the moment for me that really just like pushed me off the ledge with him. It's my 16th birthday.
Yeah.
And I had a phenomenal, at the time, faith community, friends, and I'd just gotten back from eating out somewhere, being celebrated. And I came home, it was a Wednesday night, and I walked in, and my grandma had made me a birthday cake. And I didn't get a chance to see him because he was gone early in the morning, didn't get back till late, and I had gone out in the evening with some friends. And I went over to get the birthday cake, and it was in one of those, every time I see one, man, I cringe. Oh. It was in those like tin pans with the plastic lids, like you would take to go. And anyone knows, you like touch that thing, it's like, And my grandfather was very strict. You're not out of your room after 9 o'clock because he has to wake up. Understandably so. At like 3 a.m, he was a trucker, and he needs to sleep. And so he was a light sleeper. So I go into the kitchen, and there's like this birthday cake for me, and I open it up, and of course it makes this noise, and I'm like trying to get the cake out and be quiet, and he walks out, and he just starts like railing me. And he's like, he's just cussing me out and just saying all the things, and I'm like, what? Like, what the heck? And I just look at him, and I was just like, it's my birthday. Man. And he just looks at me, and he had a few choice words. He said, happy something birthday, and walked away. And I'll never forget it. It was something that was kind of just like engraved into my head. When I would see my grandfather, that's what I would think of. When I would think of my grandfather, that's the memory I would come back to all the way up until I was like 23. It was something I really just struggled with. And so this was the view I had of my grandfather, this barbarian, like this authoritarian like person who would just like bark out orders and like just hated me. And so it was hard. That was what life was like with him. And I could not wait to leave. And so when I was 15, my life was just radically transformed. I was just sharing in the prayer meeting today, this summer will mark 15 years. So half of my life that I've followed Christ, which is like amazing. I didn't even think about it till this morning in prayer. So fast forward a little bit, it's tough, but I'm making it, I'm like I'm doing sports. I'm doing everything I can to not be home. And then my lunch lady, Miss Olga. I'll never forget Olga and Butch.
Wow. That's a typical
Olga and Butch. They were just incredible people. She was my lunch lady. I was in middle school, and so I'm rewinding just a bit here. I was in middle school, and Miss Olga asked me what church I go to. And I was like, I don't go to church. And so this is Texas too. So you're probably allowed. It's a sin. But you're also like, it's like school and church and whatever. It's like, I don't know. But she went for it in the lunch line. And she was like, hey, like, I know you're a grandmother. And like, hey, if we picked you up, could we like take you to church? And I'm like, at first, like, glance is like, what? Like, lunch lady talking to a middle schooler, offering to pick him up, take him to church. And she was like a grandmother age too, right? So she would pick me up and take me literally down the street. Like, I'm talking like I could walk there to the Methodist church.
Okay.
And we go in the Methodist church. Like, it was one of those churches that, like you walk in, they have like attendance posted on the board, like how much giving you have, like who was serving that day, and like how many kids were in the kids ministry.
Wow.
It was like that kind of like Methodist church. I distinctly remember it. And I would help at the altar and things like that, but I had no idea what the heck I was doing. Had no relationship with Christ. And so I do that. And then that pastor leaves, and they were like, we don't know where we're going to go. We think we're going to go to this church like in another town, which is only 5 minutes away, this town called Byers. Okay. So there's two small towns right next to each other, Petrolia and Byers, both population like 500. But like, I'm not kidding, like country, nothing, no population in between them for 5 miles. Just cow fields. Yeah. And so we start going to this church called Byers Assembly of God. Okay. And it was Assemblies of God church. And I showed up, and it was like awesome. I was a part of Royal Rangers, if you know what that is.
I grew up Assemblies of God.
Let's go. Shout out to the Royal Rangers. Way better than Boy Scouts. Yeah. And of course, we had the missionettes too. And, I would go, and I had like teachers, Sippy and Eddie, and I just enjoyed it, but I didn't understand. I don't know. It was just fun. And then eventually...
Well, you were out of the house.
Yeah, I was out of the house. I was just like, this is great. Like, it's a fun thing. We had to play basketball in the gym and then go listen to some guy talk about like Royal Ranger stuff. And I'm like, cool. Eventually started doing the camp outs and all that kind of stuff, but no commitment to Christ. Yeah. Then our youth group was small. Once I got into youth, it was like 12 kids. Like, I'm not exaggerating. No. And we would go, it was so funny. We would go, I distinctly remember, it used to be like a really booming youth group. I don't know what booming means for a small town, but it was like, I remember as a middle schooler looking in, seeing, cause you couldn't go in middle school. Yeah. I think you had to go only in high school or something. And I just remember seeing tons of kids in the youth group, and I was like, this is awesome. And then I don't know what switched, what happened, but I, go in, there's like 12 of us. We'd go get our chairs off the stacks of chairs in the room, and we'd set them down. And I remember the youth pastor, he would go to the back of the room, put in a CD for worship, press play, and we would worship to the CD.
Yeah, man.
And then he would come back in the front and he would preach. And I would love to be like, and it was powerful, and God moved, and we had revival. No, it sucked. Yeah. Like, it was just so bad. And he didn't really care, He just kind of did it. I think he like volunteered to do it, and he didn't have a burden for it. And then this new guy came back to town. His name was Aaron. To this day, he's my closest friend on the face of the planet. I was best man at my wedding. At the time, we were not. He was obviously he was an adult. I was still a kid. And he felt called to be the youth pastor at Byers Assembly of God. His family had, he had been a part of the church, attended. He had just finished business school, had like huge opportunities to go do. He's brilliant. Yeah. And he just felt a burden from the Lord to come back and be the youth pastor for Byers Assembly. I think there's like no salary. Yeah. Like, if it was like $5,000 a year or something stupid, And so he comes back, and I remember when he first walked in, he was like, "We're gonna change some things around here." And was like, "We're gonna pursue God." And he was like, "We're gonna get as many people here as we can, and we're taking over this city of the youth." And then the next Wednesday he came, he was like, "All right, I don't want to play CDs anymore for worship. Who wants to be on the worship team?" And he's like, "Just lift your hands." And at this point, I think there was like 15 kids in the room, and everyone's like,
they all lift their hands.
I'd played trumpet. Yeah. I'd played trumpet and tuba in my marching band. Yeah. I never played drums. And I think at this point I was like a freshman. And I raised my hand. He's like, "I want you to meet me after church and tell me what you can play." And I walk up and I say, "I can play trumpet and tuba." And he goes, "Okay, well, is there anything you want to play?"
And something else?
And I was like, drums. Yeah. And he was like, "All right." There was this guy named Gary. Yeah. Love him. He's still there today. He's on the elder board actually of the church. And Gary knew like a little bit of every instrument, right? And he taught me a little quick thing. And then my pastor at the time of the church, PJ, Pastor John, he knew drums a little bit too. And he just taught me a rock beat, do, ka, do, ka.
All you need, man.
It's all I need. And that's what we started. And we started a worship team. And that's whenever it just like everything in my life accelerated. Wow. Like I feel like just like God just took a hold of me, and we started playing, and like people started coming to the youth group. And it wasn't until my summer between my sophomore and freshman year, I was being really lukewarm. So I would tell everyone I was a Christian. I actually had not had a conversion moment. I had not had a time where I'd confess Jesus as the Lord of my life, believe that he died and rose again. And so I was just like, I don't know, just doing this thing because it's what you do, because it kept me out of the house.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was at the church anytime the doors would be open. And it was the summer between my sophomore and junior year, and we went to this youth camp, North Texas Youth Camp, Assemblies of God, and some crazy guy was up there preaching. I just remember I was just like, this guy's a psycho. Like, he was just like wild. I'm like, dude, he's on like something. I don't know. He's just crazy. And I'm like, he's definitely taking Adderall. That's what I thought. And he was just preaching and like going nuts, and he's like spiky hair. And then he like stops and he's like, he's like towards the end, he's like, I think some of you just need to ask God, like, what's his purpose and plan for your life?
Yeah.
And side note, I think it's so funny how much emphasis we put on what we preach and who's preaching that, like, I literally couldn't tell you his name or the topic of his sermon. But it was the encounter of God, right? His presence that I encountered. And so I go sit somewhere in the room. I think I sit in front of the subwoofers because I liked how it felt, because it was like cool, like, like while the worship team was playing. Yeah. And I jokingly to God was like, what do you want me to do? Yeah. I'm going to go to this junior college, and I don't really know, but like, are you really up there, God? Like, what do you want me to do? And in that moment, I closed my eyes, and the Lord showed me two visions. Never had a vision in my life. I'd never prayed for one in my life. And I distinctly remember both of them were me preaching, what I now know to be me like communicating on a stage. And only one of those has happened. Like I legitimately was in the moment and saw it. But I was on these stages. I was younger and then older. And both of them, I was standing on a platform, and there were like hundreds of people in front of me. I'm deathly afraid of getting in front of people. And God shows me this picture and this other picture, or this vision, really. It was like a moving picture. Yeah. And I was like, Lord, what is that? And he was like, I want you to be a pastor. Wow. And I was just like, whoa. Yeah. Like, that's never happened. And then two people that I've never met, that are actually from two different states, come up to me at separate times and prophesy over me. And they're like, I have a word from the Lord for you. He has called you. He's appointed you. You're going to do this. You're going to do this. And I'm just like, what the heck, Then this
You're like 15, 16 at this time?
Yeah. I'm 15 years old.
Yeah, okay.
Then this other guy, because I was a year younger than most people for my grade. I graduated when I was 17. Yeah. And so then this other guy comes up. He was the camp nurse. He came, gave me a word, and I'm like, this is wild. So I go tell my youth pastor, Aaron. Now, it's so funny. I'll never forget it. We're walking down to this like bonfire, because it's like classic youth camp. Go throw your, like, confess your sin, throw it in the fire. I don't know, whatever it was. Or like kumbaya around the fire. And I was like, man, like, Aaron, like, this is what I feel. Like, this is what God spoke. And I'd never had this kind of conversation with him. And I was still being super lukewarm, like pretending to be a Christian, but like not really following the Lord. Like, I was like partying and doing all the crazy stuff like you do in stupid small town schools, you know, drinking and all this crazy stuff. And I tell Aaron, and he looks at me and he goes, yeah, I knew that. He's like, I just didn't feel like you're mature enough to hear it. And I'm just like, oh, okay. So he just, and then after, he kind of jokes, he just affirmed the call of God in my life. And after that moment, anytime I could be at the church, I was there. And I remember going up to Aaron and saying, all right, I'm called. Yeah. Like, I'm supposed to be a pastor now. So like, when am I going to preach? Yeah. Yeah, I could totally do this. And he goes, all right, yeah, sure. Like, come meet me every Wednesday after school. And he was like, I'll help you get prepared. And I remember showing up the very first Wednesday, and he was like, meet me in the gym. I was like, oh, you got it. And he handed me a dust mop. And he said, this is how you prepare. Yeah. And he was like, I want you to serve. And every single Wednesday, I swept the gym before church, and then I set up the chairs. I tore down the chairs, and I vacuumed the youth room. Yeah. And I did that for probably a year and a half before I ever stepped foot on the platform to speak. And he just instilled in me like you're first a servant in the house before you do anything, right? The classic preacher line, right? God's going to give you a mop before he gives you a microphone.
Yeah.
And he just instilled in me this idea of, man, we go low, we serve, we work hard. But like, so I got involved in the church. I was a part of discipleship programs, and my life just turned around. And
what's interesting about your story right now is that like you started off with a pretty like I'll say 0 to 7. Like 0 to 7 was like, I mean, you shouldn't even be alive.
Yeah.
Like it was.
I almost, like when I was a baby, I didn't mention this. I got pneumonia and almost died. When I was born, the umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck and I was blue. Yeah. So there's like, it's pretty wild.
Yeah. No,
like I feel like legitimately, like there was a target on me to snuff me out.
Yeah. So it's like, you like, that's not like a normal story for people. Like, you know, and then like everything you talked about, and then you move to this next chapter of your story within your grandparents' home. And even then, that's not a great, like, you know, I know you were honoring your grandparents, but it's like that was not a great situation as well.
Yeah.
And then like, so you kind of like, as you're hearing the story unfold, you're like, man, what does that mean now? And then you get into this like kind of early high school. And just to be like frank, it's like your typical like salvation, call to ministry moment. Like there was like, it was almost like your life could have gone a completely different direction, but like the story that you just shared about like calling to ministry and like kind of lukewarm and had friends and was like helping in the church. Like a lot of people have that kind of general story. Like I had that story and I did not grow up in that kind of home. And for me, I don't know what you think about it, but for me, it's kind of like, even though your story started so far out this way, it's still like none of that disqualified or like even like stopped you from being able to just have like that like that encounter with the Lord.
Yeah.
Like, and where it was like, no, he's a lost cause. He's gone. He's out. And so it was just interesting to me. Like I was expecting something, because I haven't heard this part of your story. And so I was kind of expecting something different. It was like, you know, what, like didn't know like what's the next wild, crazy thing that happened, but you're sharing and I'm like, oh, this is just like a teenager just encountering Jesus and like, and feeling called to ministry and serving in the church, which is like this really beautiful, but kind of simple story almost. Like it's kind of beautiful to see how that has shifted in your life. Cause like you didn't just keep doing this like intense, like you're going to die kind of a moment, you know? So yeah, I don't know what you thought about that, but
I agree. I think I desperately need a family. And my church and my friends became that. Yeah. Like to this day, we talk about it all the time. What we have still, I have friends that I went back last year, and it's like we're family. Yeah. And we've done so much life together. And in rural America, it is, man, God, churches are desperately needed in rural America because I'm like one of 1,000 kids that go through this. Their parents they live in trailer homes. Their parents are drug addicts. They do meth and they like find their way to church. And it's like, that's where they find community and family. So that's where they get plugged in. That's where they're affirmed. So I'm going to be here all the time. I could name 10 more kids that literally like have done this. Right. And, it was still very hard at home. Like my grandfather hated the church. Yeah. So I would get berated when I would come home from these events and all these things. And
it's like you're here, you're encountering the Lord, you're serving, and then you come home and it's just like not the same thing.
I mean, it was like hell, man. Like he really just hated it. And he did not want me to go all the time. I don't know what he wanted. I couldn't tell you what he wanted. He probably couldn't tell you what he wanted, but I knew he didn't want me to be at the church. He came to church maybe like twice when I asked him to. My grandmother wouldn't come. She was kind of somewhat disabled, but honestly just out of laziness, just didn't want to go. My family didn't want to go. No one wanted to go. So I was like, well, I love this. I want to be a part of this. And so, I got radically like transformed, changed. And I did like just stop the lifestyle of sin that I was living, this hypocrisy, and like I'm one person here, and I was like super hypocritical, especially those first 2 years. Like I'm like, oh, like I'm a Christian, and then on the weekends I'm, doing non-Christian things. And so get saved between sophomore and junior year, get set on fire for the Lord, and I'm like, what? Like let's let's take this place for the Lord. Like, I want to take my school. I want to take my city. What can I do? I get really involved in the Assemblies of God. I start doing something called fine arts. I don't know if you know what that is.
I do,
so it's like the Assemblies of God version of like a talent show, right? I did short sermon, Christian band, Christian rock band, like unconventional drums. Like we did everything.
Unconventional drums.
Yeah, it's where you like,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was kind of goofy, but it was fun. We like went to nationals like multiple years in a row from this like tiny church in the middle of nowhere that was very unassuming. Our youth group went from 12 kids to like 120.
Wow.
Aaron had a burden, man, and he loved the next generation and just was a phenomenal youth pastor. And then in the summer, we did this thing called student discipleship. And we would go every like in the week to the church, and we'd have something every single day. It was like an 8-week program, and they did like teachings and all this kind of stuff. And it all led up to where we served at this kids camp that the church put on, Katie's Kids Camp. And then we went to this conference called Desperation Conference, and in Colorado Springs. And I remember doing that, and like you have to like raise money because it's like expensive, And so like I'm like trying to like work. I'm working for this pastor friend of mine who's like a construction guy, like getting like construction jobs with him. And then I'm also doing side jobs, whatever, to raise all this money. Do this program. We go to Desperation, and I go there and I like just encounter God again. And I just knew this is where I'm supposed to be. They, classic like church, they play one of their like internship, college videos, and go check it out in the booth. And I walk out to the booth. Shout out Aubrey Manton at the time, not Thornock. Pixie Cut and all is at the booth. Wow, I don't know her, obviously. And I go up and she tells me all about DLA, and she's just like so jazzed. She's like, you should do this. And so I go back the next year and I talk to someone else. And I'm like, this is what I'm going to do when I graduate. And then I didn't go. And I graduated high school, and I was like, I can't do this. I don't have the money. It was like, I don't know, like $7,000. And the way they make it look in the rule book, which now to know this is not the case, but like if you don't show up with all 7 G's, like we're going to turn you around and make you drive back to Texas. And I'm like such a literal black and white person. Like I went to the letter. Like, okay, well, I have $5,000. I can't go, So I took a year, did junior college. I was like, I felt like a failure. Like, I'm not going to do this. I'm like, I'm going to end up like classic, like small town school, kid graduates high school and goes and works at the Sonic down the street. Like this is my story. This is what I'm thinking, this is how I'm going to end up. And, and so I go save up the money. And then right before I went, my church, just out of nowhere, classic small church, like took an offering up for me. And I needed it was like a $1,500 more. And Brother James got up on the platform, was like, we're going to send Nathan and we're going to bless him. And I want you to give. Like, I want you to give sacrificially. And this tiny church of like, it was like probably 50 people, man, maybe smaller, like sent me and gave me $1,500 to go to this, I'll never forget it. I remember bawling in his office when they were counting it, the offering. And he just blessed me with it. And they sent me to Colorado, and I showed up. And I guess I can jump into that part.
Yeah. So now you're I'm
an adult.
You're an adult. Yeah. And you've moved out, you go to Colorado, you go to do basically like a young adult program there. Yeah.
It's like a school/program. And I like did like this online, campus school and like this internship. And it was like, I remember like some of the taglines, like, this is not for the faint of heart, go further, go deeper.
And they're like, you don't know me. I can,
And I'm just like, oh, okay. And like we get there and I'm like, dang, like what the heck is this? We're sitting in prayer meetings for 2 hours at a time, 6 times or 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night. And I'm like, these people are psychos. Like, how can you pray for 2 hours? Like, what does that even look like? And man, I just like dove in though. And I was like, I would fall asleep in prayer meetings and all this stuff. But I was like, God, I'm here. And I knew after my first week, I literally said, I'm going to work at this church. Wow. I'm going to work on this staff. This is what I'm giving my life to. And at the time, felt really called to youth ministry. So I just delved into the youth ministry side of things, met a mentor there, Brandon Cormier, who just saw me, took me in and just like really just like mentored me.
Yeah.
And I was like the annoying kid that was like overzealous for everything. like we'd have, youth debriefs and I'm like sharing 20 testimonies of all the kids that I prayed for. And my wife hated it. She was a second year when I was there. And she was like, you were the annoying kid that wouldn't shut up. Everyone wanted to go home. It's like 10:30 at night. And Nathan's over there like, here's this person I prayed for. And here's this miracle that happened. And they're like, read the room. We all want to leave. And I was so passionate, man. I was like, God was like speaking to me and using me. I was diving into like the prophetic. I'd never like done that before. A fun like side story I often share with people who, have questions about the prophetic or, what God's speaking. I remember the very first time I felt like the Holy Spirit spoke to me and told me to go share something with someone. And I was like, what is this? Like, that was kind of weird, And like, it was just like this, not audible voice. I've never heard the audible voice of God. I would love to.
Yeah. Maybe right now.
Yeah. So, but it was like that still small whisper, that feeling, the Spirit impressing me, right? And just this download came and I feel like the Lord was like, I want you to go share with this person this word. And I was like, whoa. Yeah. And it was like pretty direct. And I'm like, I don't know about that one, God, like, I mean, it's not like anything crazy, like, oh, you're pregnant or, crazy stuff like that. But right. No dates, mates, or babies. So I it wasn't that, but it was like pretty direct. And especially, I think probably looking back now, I'm like, oh, that was pretty chill. But I'm like, contemplating. I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm like pacing back and forth. I'm like, God, in this prayer meeting, I'm like so scared. I'm so nervous. And then I watched this friend of mine walk up to this person I had the word for, lay his hand on him, share something. Dude like falls over, starts weeping at the altar. And the guy prays for him. He walks back to me. He was a buddy of mine. And I looked at him and said, hey, what'd you just say to him? And word for word said the word that God gave me for him. And I was like, whoa, that's amazing. He walks away and the Holy Spirit, I remember so clearly hearing, if you don't want to be used by me, I'll use someone else. Man. And I was just like, whoa, okay, God, whatever you say. From that point, it was just like, tell me who, tell me when. Yeah. And I just dove in and I was like, Lord, I'm going to be obedient. And it started my journey of obedience. Wow. And that's a whole nother podcast, man, of just like the obedient steps that I took into the Lord. And so program changed my life. I got set free from so many things. That memory I shared earlier, had an incredible moment with some people there. It's like not a deliverance, but really just like a moment of forgiving my grandfather and starting that journey and process of forgiving him. And then, I met my wife there. Yeah. And she is incredible. She, like I said earlier, she thought I was annoying. For me, honestly, it was probably love at first sight. I can tell you the very first time I ever saw her. It was in the hallway when I walked into orientation. And then the second time I ever saw her, she was sitting behind me at the baseball game that we went to. Like I could in detail describe to you what she was wearing. Cause I was like, this is the most beautiful woman I've ever laid eyes upon. Man. And she thought, who is this dweeb?
She was like, this is the most annoying person
No,
ever.
I'm not kidding you. She thought I was a dweeb. And so I was
I haven't heard that word in a while. Dweeb.
Yeah, I was like, okay, great. And I didn't know that at the time. And so didn't shoot my shot. Some years went by. She ended up moving away. Then she moved back. And one thing led to another. Two of our mutual friends, kind of sneaky behind the scenes, were like, let's try to set these people up. And we went on a couple of friend hangouts, and the rest is history. And I praise God every day. She said yes to dating me because she is so far in every which way, like just beyond anything I deserve. Just my best friend, really. And now we have a life together. We got married and just began to talk about, what do we want? What do we want our lives to look like? How do we want to parent? Come from a similar upbringing. It's not like hers wasn't as gruesome as mine or like tragic, but she was raised by her grandparents for some time.
Oh, wow.
So we had that in common. And her mom was in and out of the picture. But yeah, we that was in common, and we were like, what we know for sure is like me and my house, like we're gonna serve the Lord, and like that's what's gonna happen. And so 6 months into marriage, found out we were pregnant, and kind of taken back, honestly. We were excited, don't get me wrong. But like I remember calling a friend, and he was like, how do you want me to feel for you? Like, because some people, honestly would be like devastated because they want to wait 5-10 years. And sure, we had a plan, but we desperately also wanted to be parents. And so I feel like I had to grow up so fast and like become a man quick, because I no longer like, sure, if I was responsible for Kelsey, but like if something happened to me, she's an adult, she's got it, But now this human tiny person that's coming into my life that like God has entrusted me with, like that I'm going to shape, and all the things of course came up, the inadequacies, my childhood, all that stuff just starts flooding my mind. And
there's no way you've processed those things
yet. Not at all. And now like often I believe how you parent is definitely 100% of it's it reflects how you were like parented as a child, like things that come out of you that you don't even realize. It's happening to this date. Things that will come out of me and I'm like, oh, we got to deal with that. That was not good. And I know what that's from. And so sometimes I don't catch it. I'm not trying to say I'm just like perfect over here.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, I'm kind of going quickly here, but here we are 4 kids in, and kind of what actually sparked all of this, right? Me sharing when I shared for Easter, and I was in a staff meeting here, and I just had the privilege of sharing that my daughter decided to get baptized. And kind of how that happened was, this is the best part of my entire testimony, I think, honestly. Just the full circle moment for me. It was my wife and I's 6th anniversary. June the 9th, coming up, about to celebrate our 8th.
Come on, man.
And we were so romantic, and we agreed, don't hate on me, anyone, agreed together to do this, not, he didn't plan nothing. I had stuff planned, but we were in a season where we're like, we ain't got nothing, we ain't got no money right now, and we're just going to hang out. So we decided to go to Chick-fil-A, a very romantic dinner with our children at the time, 2 kids.
Just sounds like a normal night out. For dinner,
or maybe 3. Maybe Georgia was just born. I'm so bad with those types of things. Kelsey would be correcting me right now. No, this is the timeline, but because she's really good at remembering them. So we go through drive-through Chick-fil-A.
Oh, you don't even see
romantic, dude. So romantic,
Just eat it on the way home.
She's so in love with me. And so we go there, again, agreed together to do this. And we sit down in our house, and it's our anniversary, and honestly, we just want to be with our family. And we're like praying and like celebrating like what, just like 6 years together, and talking to our daughter about it. And I remember Venice, she just starts asking me these like pointy questions. And I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean? And she's like, Dad, like, she's like almost 5 at this point, 4.5. Yeah. And she's like, Dad, because she's 6.5 now. She's 4.5. She's like, Dad, does God have a plan for my life? Like, very articulate. And I was like, yes. And she was like, yeah, like you were talking, and like I just like want to know like more about Jesus. And honestly, Dad, like you said this before, but I really think I want to give Jesus my life. Wow. And I'm like, what? Like she's 4.5 years old. Yeah. And so like I'm like, do you understand? So I just start grilling her. I'm like, what does this mean? And she's like, well, like you told me that, if I accept Jesus, that means I have to believe in him, and I have to believe that he died for me, and I have to believe that he's alive again. And I'm like, that's the gospel, like, yes, and so
I said that.
I'm like, wow, like you remember that? And so she's like, yeah, Dad, like I really want to give my life to Jesus. What do I do?
That's beautiful.
And both me and Kelsey were just stunned at the dinner table. And I get emotional thinking about it because it was one of the most beautiful moments, healing and full circle and everything, because this 4.5-year-old girl who, when I look back at when I was 4.5, like who knows what was going on.
You were trying to survive.
Yeah.
It was like,
it was rough. And here we are, full circle. We had prayed every night since the day she was born. Over every kid, we've done this. But we were like, God, would she know you, and would she know you from a young age, and would she never, ever turn from you?
Yeah.
Like, that's been our prayer for our kids, like most parents, right? But for us, it was like, I don't know, it felt like do or die. Like, God, I like this, my kids have to. Like, I want them to desperately follow you. So it was this prayer of desperation over our kids every night. And then it's like happening. And I'm like, what the heck? So I pray with her. We like have it on video. We're like crying. I'm like sobbing. And she like is like, you know, confessing Jesus as Lord. And it was just like beautiful on our 6th anniversary. What the best anniversary gift we've ever given ourselves, right?
Even better than Chick-fil-A drive-thru.
Even better than Chick-fil-A drive-thru. So this happens. And I'm like, what do I do next? And at the time, my grandmother was living with us. My wife's grandmother was living with us. And then God just starts moving in my house. And then I had the privilege also, shortly after that, leading my grandmother to Christ, who lived in my basement.
Wow.
And then, shortly after that, she had passed away. And there was just like this full circle moment. And I was like, well, what do we do next? And then of course all the doubt, shifts in. I was like, was this authentic? Does she really understand? Did she mean it? And it's like, am I rushing this? Is it too fast? And so she starts asking like, what's next? And we're like, well, like you need to get baptized. And she's like, okay, like, and so we're just trying to like figure that out. And she's like so young. So we just made a commitment, like we're not going to bring it up to her. And like, she has to fully articulate what baptism is for us to help her understand. And I've heard that girls kind of pick up things faster than boys. And I've noticed that even in my own kids. And so like, we're just letting it take its course. And she would ask and ask and ask. So we just teach her about baptism, teach her about, following Jesus, and just watching it even shift in her tiny little brain of being convicted. Yeah. This is what coveting feels like, and like watching her like have remorse for sinning. Yeah. And it was weird. It was like, what is going on in her little brain, and she's like having this heart transformation as much as you can at 5 years old, 6 years old. Yeah. And we move here. And that's a whole nother story for another time too. Yeah.
But I know that was a wild time.
We move here, and life is crazy, and she's still asking to baptize. And so we're like, okay, when you're 6, we'll talk more about it. Yeah. On her 6th birthday, her birthday wish was to get baptized. Sweetheart. And so we're just like, okay, we have to, So again, we're trying to steward her and her young age, and not jump the gun on this thing. We want it to mean. We don't want her to get older and be like, yeah, I was baptized as a kid, but I'll do it again. We want it to be significant because it's a sacrament of the church. Like, this is so important. Yeah. And so, we talked to her, prayed about it, talked to mentors, and we're like, okay, we feel like she's ready. And so we had an opportunity. I don't remember when it was, but sometime after that, Radiant had baptisms. Yeah. And I got to baptize her, and it was one of those powerful things I've got to do in ministry. And just baptizing people in general is just, it's transformational. There's obviously a shift in the spirit, what is happening. And then like when I remember she walked up, well, the night before we went, she's very much like me. She was like, I want to see this like tank, and like, what is it going to look like? And can I test it out? And I'm like, well, we're not going to like baptize you, but like, sure, if you want to like look at it and spec it out and like see. And so we get there, classic PK kid, it's like get access, after hours. So we go look at it.
Set the temp just right.
Yeah. She's like, oh, okay. She fully understands. And,
so my son is just now asking, like, he wants to get baptized. And he was like asking, like, can I be the first one in the tank? So I'm not like the last. And then, so we were like, and this is now the time where he's actually starting to, like, he knows what baptism is. Yeah. Like before it wasn't that case. And then our daughter was like, do I have to get baptized too? And I'm like, well, do you know what baptism is? She goes, well, I just don't want to get my clothes wet. We're like, let's not worry about baptism right now.
Let's wait.
I don't think we're thinking the same thing.
We like do the baptisms, and I intentionally put her last because I knew I was going to lose it. Like, I knew I was going to just be a freaking mess. And when I like cry, I get this like squeaky mouse voice. So I'm like, this is my honor, and like people don't even understand what I'm saying. I'm like, it's like, is the pastor crying over like some little girl getting baptized right now? And it's like, no, it's my kid. And she gets in, and I baptize her, and I pick her up. It's so precious, so thankful that our media team captures some of those moments. And I'm holding her, and I have my eyes closed, and I just get this vision. and it's me and Kelsey are in this field. And something I feel like we've had to do really our whole lives. And, I don't use this phrase often because I feel like it can be overused and over-churched, like language, it's just like churchy language. But like, I really feel like we've just been breaking curse after curse after curse over our family, like generational curses of addiction and adultery, and you just name it. We're trailblazing. And that's what I felt like, a word for our family. Like, we are trailblazers, and the Schaffners used to be this, but now we're this. Yeah. And I got this vision of me and Kelsey walking in this field, and there was no trail, but behind us, there was a trail. Wow. We were creating this trail for our family, and our kids were following along behind. And in this picture, like, Venice came up and grabbed my hand, and it was like the trail got wider. Wow. And it was like she's on this journey with us now of changing who we are in our family's name. Yeah. And she's a second-generation Christian now. I'm a first-generation Christian of my family. And it was just like this beautiful moment. And after that, I saw another picture. It was so odd. This hasn't happened in a while, but let me backtrack. When I baptized her and she like went under, like in my mind's eye, it just started flashing like all these other people that I was baptizing. Yeah. And I was like older, and I just felt like the Lord was like, you're not like, you're baptizing Venice, but like, this is a generational thing. Yeah. Like, this is a shift for your family. And it really was like obviously her old self, she's dying to who she was, being raised to life in Christ. And I feel like the Lord was just even saying like the Schaffner name is being raised to life. Like, and I'm creating this new picture and this new understanding of who your family is, and like legacy that you're going to create. And that's my dream. That's my hope, is like, just, I want to create a legacy of people who love Jesus. Yeah. And like, I love what Pastor Lee says all the time, when he talks about the end of his life. I've pictured something similar. At the end of my life, I want to be surrounded by kids, grandkids, who knows, great grandkids. The Lord tarries, right? I want to be there, old and gray, and I want people to say like I love Jesus, and like they're carrying on the legacy of like, our family used to be known for this, but now like, man, we are wholehearted, all out for Jesus. I don't care in whatever form or fashion. I'm not like, everyone's going to be in ministry and, be a pastor, but I would love that, but I really just want us to love Christ and give everything to him, radical obedience to him. Yeah. And so, it's been a journey for sure. And I'm just so thankful. I'm thankful to be here in this house. Yeah. Man, I could go on and on and on about just what God has done in the last year and a half at being at Radiant Church. It really has become like family to me and family to us. And Michigan is growing on us for sure. Yeah. We're loving the lakes, right? The hidden gem that is Michigan. Bro, for real. And so that's a little bit of my story.
Thanks, Nathan, man. It's incredible. As we wrap this up, I have one question for you. Is you kind of mentioned the part about, you're a first generation Christian, daughter's a second generational Christian. One of the things you and Kelsey are processing through is like how to break those generational curses. So you're definitely not like out of the woods. You're not like, oh yeah, we're like so far past that. Like, you're in the battle, but you at least have some perspective looking back. So what would you say to someone who, is, watching, listening to this right now, who is like in the, like maybe a little bit like earlier than you are in your current life, of generational curses, whether it be addiction or brokenness, trauma, abuse, whatever that might be. And they feel almost like, I'm picturing someone listening to this who's like almost drowning in this. Like they're like, I can't see up from down, left from right. I don't know how to get out of this. What would you say to them? Yeah.
I think it's easy to become a victim to your circumstances. I actually think it's common, and it's so easy to say, well, this was done to me, so therefore I cannot do whatever. And I would just encourage people, man, God has new and better things in store for you. First, I don't believe it's the Lord's intentions for people to abuse you and to hurt you. And you have a choice to kind of change that story for others, not for your own, as we talked about earlier, not for your own glory or your own self-righteousness, but truly to glorify God. Yeah. And I just think you have to have people around you, a faith community. I'm a I would say it 1,000 times over. I'm a firm believer in the local church. Like, if you are not in a local church, what are you doing? Get in a local church, be a part of a body of believers, find friends in a faith community that can hold you accountable, but also encourage you, because it is hard and it is difficult. And I truly believe had it not been for the church that I was in, Aaron as my youth pastor and Pastor Brandon as a mentor to me, and all the pastors through the years and friends that have just encouraged me, comrades that have come around and supported me in the moments where I was really like figuring it out and like, God, what the heck is going on? I didn't even share at a moment in the prayer room my first year of that internship where I remember asking God, like, why did I have to go through all this? This is not fair. This isn't, and it's so feels that way. Like, it's not fair that I had to go through this trial or have this happen in my life. But I truly believe that God is going to turn these things around for you. In 2 Corinthians, right? One of my like life verses is, I'm just going to read it so I say it correctly. 2 Corinthians 5:17, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. And if you find yourself in Christ, you are made new. And the old truly has passed away. You do not have to linger in it. I hate when people share their testimonies and it's like, let's glorify the past and all the things. It's like, no, that's who you used to be. That is not who God has called you to be. And so, that's what I would encourage people. And Jesus is there. He is searching you out, and he desperately wants relationship with you. And so that's what I would share with people. And I would love to, anyone in our body, in our community, like, I'm a pastor here. I love pastoring. I love shepherding people. And so I would love to pray with you or walk with you on this journey. You know, if you're here, if you're local, but if not, like, find someone, find a pastor, a church, a friend, a mentor to walk with. So,
I love that. Thanks so much, man. Thanks for spending this time sharing your story. I know personally there's so much more that we could have shared too. We did it as like fast as we could too. And so, but I just love seeing, like, you phrased it so beautifully, the full circle of everything, like to where we started at, Nathan age 0 to like Nathan now with your family, and just see just the beauty. It's not just everything was bad, now everything's fine now. It's like, no, actually to see the redemption of things, of how things that have been changed in your life, changed in your grandmother's life, changed in your kid's life, even in Kelsey's life. But also, man, I'm holding out, I'm praying for things in your mother's life, and it's like, how will this just come full circle? Where is God's redemptive plan continuing to go? And so I love that. So thanks for sharing, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We hope you enjoyed this conversation. Please make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode of Radiant Podcast.